we talk about the AI bubble bursting and that these productless AI ventures are going to go away. Do you think that affects NVIDIA at all?
So the bubble burst doesn't mean people are going to go away. Let's kind of talk about some of these valuations. And I don't know if you want to bring some of these up,
Yeah,
but
which one do you want to go with?
so
Which
let's
one do
just
you want
talk
to start
about
with?
Figma. So Figma's talking about an IPO this week, right? And the interesting thing about Figma's IPO is they're IPOing, and Figma's one of the most revenue generating companies off of AI, other than like one of the big AI companies themselves. So I think they're one who has integrated real AI value into their product, and yet they're IPOing at 18.8 billion, or you're seeing different numbers, 16 to 8. Let's call it 16 to 18 billion,
It
right?
fluctuates 16 to 18.
Yeah, let's call it 16 to 18. They're at a 46% revenue growth. They have $50 million in profit, right? Like they're a really good, strong company, and yet their valuation, I mean, is still strong, because on a $50 million profit to a $19 billion valuation is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But then you look at Anthropic this week, who's trying to raise, and they're raising on a $150 billion valuation off of $1 billion of revenue. That's 150x revenue.
I'll push back a little bit there. They did have $1 billion in revenue, but according to them, they are now at a $4 billion annual run rate. And just from last month to this month, it says that they went from 3 to 4 billion. So their revenue is growing. The report also says that the company's annualized revenue had jumped from 3 billion to 4 billion in the previous month. So, but to your point, Figma's IPOing at a 22 times revenue, which is still rich, but at the top of the market in this AI boom, fine. 22 times revenue, it's insane, but they have a profit. They just started to hit a profit. But $50 million on a $16 billion IPO, that's not much to write home about. It's profit, but they probably got their books nice and pretty right before their IPO so they could show a profit, so that they weren't one of these profitless companies IPOing. Because if they're a profitless tech company, then everybody kind of writes them off sometimes. But when it comes to a company that's generating profit, and it's going to IPO, you see a lot more people taking it seriously, because it's like, oh, wow, we could actually see some real revenue coming down and some real earnings per share. However, Anthropic, I couldn't find how much they're burning right now, but they are seeking a valuation of $150 billion. This is up more than double from its previous valuation at $61 billion. And they're looking to raise the cash of 3 to 5 billion. So the cash is different, obviously, from the valuation. But even at their $4 billion revenue mark, that's 48 times revenue that they're trying to raise at, which is
Which
crazy. So it's more than double at what Figma is trying to raise revenue. It's trying to
and,
IPO at. So yeah,
and
go
the,
ahead.
and the interesting part here is that, and there's a couple of things. So as you read into this, and I say pretty plugged into this topic here, Claude, or Anthropic just raised the value of they just lowered the value of how much they're giving per token for
I
each
saw that.
subscription. So
I
they
actually got an
just
email. Let me see if
announced
I can
this.
pull it up while you're saying that.
Well, I just got the announcement in my email, I think yesterday morning. It was
Yeah, me
like,
too. Let me
hey,
pull it up.
yeah, and it's like, hey, by the way, and it's almost a fourth of the token limits. And they're doing some funny math, because it's like they moved it off a daily limit to a monthly limit. But if you do the math, you're getting about a fourth of the tokens for the same cost. So this is signs of the bubble bursting. So we talked about the bubble bursting. I want to talk about that, because you said bubble bursting equates things going away. That's not it. Let's talk about the dot-com bubble burst, right? What happened? There was every company running out there being like, hey, I got a .com on my name. I can raise $10 million, right? And this is what happened in the early 2000, like 2000, 2001. And then what happened was the market tanked and valuations tanked. And then the only people left were companies that actually had real value, right? And suddenly revenue became a real thing, and a lot of other things, because like even Yahoo crashed in this state because they were so big and they had so many clicks, but they hadn't yet translated it to revenue. And so the same thing is what came out of that, the internet, right? So it's the same reason why NVIDIA is going to sail through this, because AI is not going to go away. And so me saying the bubble burst, so frequently people are like, you're so wrong, the bubble burst. You can't say the bubble burst. AI is not going anywhere. You're right. It's not going anywhere. But we are going to see these profitless companies disappear. Valuations are going to be questioned, just like we are this morning, right? Valuations are going to be questioned, and people are going to be like, hey, look, you got to show us revenue. There's got to actually be a business model here, because Futurism reported that the first half of the financial year is behind us, and there was The whole US has dumped $104 billion into AI companies so far this year, which is as much. So just halfway this year is as much as they'd invested in 2024. But yet VCs are starting to get return because people are starting to exit via these large, so like in this Anthropic, there will be VCs that actually exit in it. And they're seeing about a quarter of their investments back, even on valuation. So we're seeing that investors are starting to go, wait a minute, there might not be quite this much money. These are early signs of a bubble burst, right? So you and I are some of the ones who are going to watch the market, watch the signs, watch these trends. You're going to see a bubble burst. What that means is the tech is going to stay, which is why NVIDIA is going to ride this rocket ship, right? Because they're still the best producers of it. There's a valuable technology here, but it's been overhyped and overpumped in the stock market or in the VC world. The stock market is a lot more smart, right? That's the reason why you're seeing, even though, Figma is a 22, it's nowhere near the almost 50 to 100x valuation that Anthropic's trying to get.
Yeah, totally. What It's gonna be interesting to see that investor that got 20, like they got a 25% haircut on his investment, let's say. It's gonna be interesting. Is he gonna redeploy that? Like, is he gonna stay out of these revenue-less companies now? I mean, not revenue-less, but these profitless companies now. And is he gonna invest into Tesla that has real AI to show for? So, like, are the Mag 7 gonna continue to boom? When you say bubble bursting, I can kind of connect some dots where it's like, okay, who would I rather invest in? Somebody that has a $50 million profit at Figma, or should I invest into the largest EV maker and the leader in AI and robotics? So I will be interested to see if the Mag 7 will continue to ride this wave, because you're going to see, I think you'll see a lot of these smaller revenue-less and profitless and productless companies kind of fade away a little bit as these VCs pull their money out. So I think you're spot on there, and only time will tell. So if you guys haven't yet, consider subscribing, because we'll track this stuff every week. Every Tuesday morning, we'll be here. Let us know what you guys think down in the comments. Cool. What do you got next?
Well, so one really other quick note about this before we move on from it.
Sure.
What I think is going to happen with these is I think you're going to see the company, and you're already seeing it, right? We're seeing companies who aren't real start to fall off. Anthropic is real. They have real tech. They have some of the best AI out there. They've not only that, they've built to a big, the connectors into their AI and the tools around AI is where the strength of Anthropic is going to run. Will Anthropic remain? Yes. But I could see an Apple or somebody like that swooping in and buying an Anthropic, somebody who's behind and wants to be able to jump in. And I think that's what you're going to start seeing. I think you're going to start seeing some of these Mag 7s swoop in and purchase, and you're already starting to see it, right? You saw Google like part and parcel out and steal a whole bunch of the talent in a kind of an acquisition from Windsurfer, right? And you saw some of these other ones. I think you're going to keep seeing that over the rest of 2025 and into 2026. You're going to see companies who are going to start struggling as VCs don't re-up these crazy round valuations, and the Mag 7 who has plenty of money to burn, right? Because Microsoft's, like, for instance, is just posting $100 billion of revenue this year, right? They could come in and swoop in and easily purchase Anthropic, right? For a big number for 1 year's worth of revenue, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I think you're going to see the Mag 7, a lot of these other ones swoop in, or we could see the huge talent war just to just basically, part these out, because it's a lot easier to steal the talent with a paycheck than it is to go through all the red tape of purchasing a company.
Totally. And especially private companies that I think you'll see a lot of acquisitions of. Purchasing a public company is fairly difficult, fairly involved, and very expensive. As Elon found out buying Twitter.